that's apart from the financial impact statement. I think there should be a financial impact analysis, and an analysis would give you a range as to what the proposed amendment is going to cost, the positives, the negatives. It could reduce expenditure somewhere, it could increase in other places, but you need the full story. In full disclosure, give the full story, not a four-word synopsis of the story. So I'm all in favor of disclosure, but it should be full disclosure and not in just one piece.
Thank you. We have two other people in the queue, but I want to ask Member O'Neill if he has a motion.
Yes, Chair, I would move that we strike the need for a financial impact statement from the charter, but retain the need and the requirement for a financial impact analysis.
We have a motion by Member O'Neill. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Member Staccato. We are open for discussion. Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman.
We have discussion. I have two. Member Batchelor, Member Shower, and then Member Baglia and Grimmer before that.
Could I ask counsel for clarification before I make my comment? And again, you can bifurcate the issue. You're saying that we could, I'm a little bit confused. You cannot have a financial, your financial statement has to be subsumed in the 75-word limit on the ballot. But I thought you said the Charter Review Commission could take other action to provide financial disclosure beyond the ballot language.
So, yeah, let me break it apart.
You're an attorney. You can give me two answers if you'd like. It's okay.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
We've got two pieces going on in the requirements for the Charter Review Commission. Prepare a financial impact estimate, half a page, 3 pages, 10 pages, 25 pages, okay. Who knows? And then include a brief summary of that within the 75 words.
Right.
I think the motion I heard was remove the requirement to include that brief summary within the 75 words, but still have the analysis prepared.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would, having served in the legislature and passed legislation, as you alluded to, every piece of legislation you pass requires a fiscal impact statement. Every constitutional amendment requires a fiscal impact statement. And if we try to do it in a bifurcated area where the language is separate from the 75 words, it is just some kind of addendum or some kind of reference point, I don't think the public is served well. I mean, if you go back to the overarching issue here, it's government sunshine, the public's right to know. And the public's right to know include not on the language of the proposed charter amendment, but what is the financial impact of that. Now, one final thing on I'm going to take you to the campaigns part of this process. Believe me, the people who are opposed to some of these proposed constitutional amendments will have fiscal impact notices, and they will use those to their advantage and to your disadvantage because you have nothing to defend yourself with as far as really empirical data. Now, is econometric modeling, is it a science? Partly, but is it some of guessing? Partly, it is. But it has, in my opinion, it has to be done because you can't offer. To me, it denies the public the right of full disclosure and access to all the data, including what would this charter amendment cost, and it should be the same thing for the county commissioners. A fiscal impact note attached to it's the public's right to know. It's just not the issue; it's the cost of the issue. So that's mine.
Yes, and I would add to that. At the state, the determination of the cost of a project is done at a staff level. It's, I mean, the elected officials pretty much see it last, and we would be in the same position, I think, where we need that objective number. We don't have to agree with it, but Member Batchelor is correct. The opposition is going to have these numbers. And we have a call for question. Is there a second?
Second.
Our policy is that when we have a call for question, we'll take a vote on the question. If the question passes, then we'll take a vote on the main motion. We have questions. Any discussion on calling for question? We can have discussion on that. Oh,
I'm calling the question.
yeah, you can comment on it's a vote. It's a motion.
Oh,
We're going to now. However, your comments have to be in reference to the call.
Just tell us you want to go home.
In other words,
I just wanted to make a point that was made, recently here that we're financially unable to provide a financial statement because some people in the comptroller's office are absent or they haven't filled positions, and we still have consultants that will do this for us.
Yes.
So,
Thank you. Any more discussion on the question?
I had one question on that.
Remember, okay.
I was just wondering, are we voting right now to not consider sending this to a committee, or is this?
Right now, we're only voting on the call for question, which ends discussion.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
call
all
for
in
question
favor?
is the vote to end debate.
Who was the second on the call? Member Weinsberg. Question has been called. Is it
A
on?
comment on the call to the question.
Yes, Mr. O'Neill.
I think there's little confusion, at least I heard from Member Batchelor, about what the motion is. So before we call the question, I
but
would just like to clarify what the motion is.
normally on the call for question, there's only discussion on the call. However, we can have a bifurcated Robert's rules. So if you have comments that you need to make, please.
Well, I have no problem, again, with the financial impact analysis. That is the full breadth of the disclosure, and that should be done, and that should be available to the public. What we're talking about here is the brevity, the synopsis, to boil down, as you said, 3 pages of financial analysis into 4 words, knowing that people may only read those 4 words. And it may come out positive, it may come out negative. There's no ability for the CRC to say,
Mr.
oh,
O'Neill.
but.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion to call, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay?
right.
Mr.
Motion has been
Chairman,
called. Motion passes. Now we have a vote on the main motion. Will the clerk's office repeat the main motion, and we'll.
just for the record, while I might appear confused, I'm not on this issue. I understand it. I understand the issue.
Yes.
Chair Hardage, who was the nay for the last motion?
Member Shara and Member O'Neill. Is that correct? Any other nays?
No, I didn't vote nay.
Dickie had
Let's have a roll call on the vote to call questions.
The motion for the call to question, Member Batchelor,
Yes.
Member Jackson,
This is to end discussion. Go ahead, continue.
This just ended. Yeah.
Member De La Portilla,
Yes.
Member Weinsberg,
yes.
Member Callen,
Yes.
Member Arias is absent, Member Grimmer,
Yes.
Member Nguyen,
Yes.
Chair Hardage,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shira,
No.
Member Baga,
No.
Member O'Neill,
Yes.
Member Staccardo, Member Addison Prophet,
Yes.
Member Riley,
No.
motion passed.
The motion to call question passed, and the nays were.
The nays were Shira, Member Chair Shira, Vice Chair Shira, Member Baga, Member Staccardo, Member Riley.
Okay, thank you. Now we are called for a discussion. A vote on the main motion, because call the question ends discussion. And the staff will repeat the main motion.
Thank you, Chair. The motion is for the removal of the financial impact statement and to retain the financial impact analysis.
Okay, we have a motion that's properly made and second. All in favor of the motion signify by aye. All opposed signify by nay.
Nay.
The motion fails. Thank you for the.
That was
for the
member,
discussion.
I'm sorry, that was member O'Neill and Staccato voted yes. Oh, and Addison.
You
Can we have a roll
And
call?
Ryan.
For clarity, would you like a roll call on to be sure? Let's have a roll call.
Please. No.
Member Batchelor,
No.
member Jackson. Yes. Member De La Portilla,
No.
member Weinsberg,
No.
member Callen. No. Member Arias is absent. Member Grimmer. No. Member Wynn.
No.
Chair Hardage,
No.
Vice Chair Shira,
No.
member Baga,
No.
member O'Neill,
Aye.
member Staccato,
Yes.
member Addison Prophet, yes. Member Riley.
Abstain.
You can't
can't.
abstain
I,
if you're present.
Oh, because I'm present. You can't abstain.
I can't contemplate that you'd have a voting conflict on it, which would be the only basis on which you could abstain.
Something I don't understand.
If
So no.
I couldn't hear you.
I said no.
Okay, the motion fails. Thank you for the comment. It was a valid thought. Next, we'll have a public initiative. It's TransX. And will you please come forward, give us your name and where you're from, your address. And I want you to know, as a chairman, I'm not fully aware of this. I have read the literature, and I've done a Google search on this, and we're fishing for ideas to address for transportation. So we don't know if this works, but we're fishing for the right idea.
Yeah, well, this will work, but nobody's done it yet, so I think we have to be really brave. It's called Transit X, and you can look it up, www.transitx.com. It was created about 10 years ago at MIT, and it's been, shall we say, marketed around the world, and it will be starting probably in the Middle East, in places like Doha, and even in Bangladesh, Dhaka, before it starts in the U.S., even though it was invented in the U.S. It's overhead transportation in pods. And it sounds futuristic, but the future is now. The problem is that we have crashes. If somebody had come to President Lincoln, let's say, in 1860-something and said, I'd like to build you a system of transportation that goes all over the country, and everybody has their own vehicle, and they can go anywhere they want. The only problem is two things. First, you're going to have to dig up all this oil and put it up in the atmosphere, and it's going to eventually wipe out civilization. Certainly, it's going to create a necessity for people who live near the beach anywhere to migrate inland. That's problem number one. The second problem is we're going to have to kill 45,000 people a year to run this system.
Excuse me.
Well,
Can you? I don't want to speed you up, but can you tell us what it is?
Okay, I am. It's an overhead transportation system that gets us up off the street so that vehicles would be on podways that run on either side of what are now the streets, up above the sidewalk, at an elevation of about 16 to 20 feet. It's privately funded, and it makes a profit out of the fare box. So it's not something that we have to invest in, but what the developers need is the transportation rights, the overhead transportation rights. So I'm very excited about this idea because I think it could be good for humanity, and I'd love to see it start here in Central Florida because it would bring people from all over the world to ride on Transit X. So if you look at the videos, and there are several of them on the site, transitx.com, and think about it, then I think that you will come to the same conclusion, and that is that it would be much more efficient and certainly thousands of times safer than the current transportation system. The idea is you get into your pod, which is a vehicle that is lightweight, suspended off of a rail, and you go wherever you want to go because you don't have to go to a station. You go from stop to stop. There's a main line, and your vehicle switches into the main line, and you're always moving at 45 to 60 miles an hour. And the safety of it is the thing that would sell it, I think, to the public, because it's not going to have accidents. And you know somebody, I'm sure, who was either injured or killed in an accident. Everybody knows somebody. Because you're suspended up above the roadway, it leaves the roadways free for other transportation, such as commercial transportation. So we would still have trucks, but personal transportation would be up high and above. Now, Disney came up with something like this. You've seen it recently, the cable car that they have at Disney. Well, imagine that solar-powered and many times faster and running throughout the city, and not on a cable, but on a rail. So take a look at it. It's called TransitX. Go to transitx.com. There's an 11-minute video that explains the whole thing. It's privately financed, and it's the only transportation system that is going to make profit out of the fare box, so that it doesn't have to fall back on the government for subsidies. So I'm just making a proposal, and I'd like you to take a look at it. And I understand there's a transportation committee. I didn't know that when I made this proposal, but I can go to the transportation committee with this idea also. So transitx.com, look at it, think about it, see if you want to do it.
Thank you. What's your role with the company? I see your shirt says TransitX.
I'm a volunteer.
And why are you volunteering for a major national corporation?
It's not a major corporation. It's a few people in Boston who want to get this thing started, and I don't blame them.
Yes.
I'm an environmentalist at heart, and I think we have to transition away from petroleum. And one of the nice things about TransitX, and what drew me to it when I was up at MIT at a conference, is that it's solar powered. And so we get away from using fossil fuels. So take a look at it. Think about it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen somewhere in the world, and then we're going to go, we could have done that too.
Well, thank you. I have had a chance to watch the video, and it is pretty interesting. I'm not sure how it fits into Orange County, but I think it is something that if there's a motion to move this to the Transportation Committee, I would be in support of that.
Yeah, well, one of the places where it could really be used is when a student leaves a class at UCF main campus and wants to go downtown to the new downtown campus, it could take them 40 minutes to do that. And this would zip them from campus to campus in 12 minutes or 12 or 13 minutes. And we could tie in Valencia and run a route from Valencia to UCF and down to Colonial, along Cimarron to Colonial, and then zoom into the city, and students could go from downtown campus to a class one period later at the main campus. So, it'd be a great place to test it out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Member O'Neill.
Mr. Finnegan, I watched the video also.
Yes.
And very, very intriguing, very intriguing. We do have a transportation Transmac committee, and M in that acronym is mobility. To study, that committee would study ideas such as the one that you're bringing to us. I do have one question about how that would work. I'm not sure anyone else here worked at Disney World, or I worked on the monorails when I was in college. There's a bus bar for the monorail that it has shoes, and it pulls its power from the bus bar. Where does this, I know it's solar, but where does this, does each pod get its energy?
Each pod has its own motor,
Okay.
and each pod has its own batteries. And the rail itself is solar, and the pods have solar on the outside of the pod. So it's all energized pod by pod. And if a pod is ill, can't continue its mission, it can get shunted very quickly into a garage, so to speak, and a new one can be sent in its place. But they're basically on call. If they used them for transportation from school to home, there'd be a lineup of them at the school, and the kids would get into the pod. They wouldn't have to get into the school bus. They get in the pod, go with their friends to their neighborhood, and get out at their neighborhood. So it's just an ingenious system, and it gets us up off the roadway. It's safe, and it's solar. Those are the things that I really like about it.
Mr. Finnegan, I think several of us have seen the video, but it's not a full board member discussion until we have a few more facts.
Sure.
And so if there's a motion to move this to that committee, I would be in support of that. The only thing I would caution on is that it's kind of drifting into out of the policy realm. We're creating policy, and it's drifting into administration because we're telling the county what type of rail system to use. So when you make your presentation to the Transportation Committee, my recommendation would be that you create your focus around what is the policy that would lead to this type of transportation, as opposed to asking the board to create a Transit X. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know anything about
we cannot tell the board
administration,
exactly what to do. We can tell them what policy they should have.
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to, I'm not sure how much more discussion we need on this, but I have Member Callan and then Member Grimmer, and then if we can cut off discussion, I would appreciate it. No discussion, Member Grimmer?
Yeah, Chair, kind of going off what you were just saying there about, telling the Board of County Commissioners, what sort of public transportation to invest in. Mm-hmm. I don't see that as a role, obviously, for this Charter Commission, as we talked about a lot of times. Telling the county commission to spend money is not something we can do. Mm-hmm. And my concern with even sending it to the Transportation Committee would be an inefficient use of resources, because I just don't see any way that we can craft a ballot question that is legal. We're discussing creating the TMAC committee, which one of the things that committee would be the transportation, we want to look at transportation projects in the county. One of their duties under the current draft would be to consider new options for transportation, right? But that would be a commission whose responsibility would be to do that. So that if that commission is one day created by the public, this might be a great idea to bring to that committee. But I don't see it as a Charter Commission issue, and I'm not sure we should spend the time to take a look at it.
I would ditto that. Can we get a motion to? No, I cut off discussion too early. Any further discussion?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. We do appreciate you taking the time to do this and bringing it to our attention. Is one of the items that Chairman Hardage mentioned at our two meetings.
Correct.
About the importance of us looking to the future, because the future is now. It's going to happen quicker than we think. And so, unfortunately, we're just limited to establishing procedures and process by which substantive issues can be presented at those committees later on. So we're still at the foundation level trying to establish a procedure for someone to consider what you're proposing or suggesting that should be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments, we'll end discussion, but we really appreciate, no. Excuse me. You brought it to the board, and you properly agended the item, and we've heard it for board discussion. We now need a motion to either send this to committee or not send it to committee, so excuse me. Is there a motion one way or the other?
I would make a motion. We do not send it to the committee, since I think it's out of our charter study activity.
Second.
We have a motion by Member Vice Chair Shara and a second by Member Grimmer. Any discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to make a comment that state of Florida has a transportation commission, and you're probably well aware of it, and they sit as a board for the whole state, and also the DOT supports that situation. I was involved with the High Speed Rail Authority for 7 years, and they provide a really good focus group in terms of transportation. So I think that's where you should take your program to the state and let them take a look at it. because we don't have the money for it.
In addition to that, you can ask for a meeting directly with Orange County. They have a large staff of people that are looking for new ideas for transportation. And in addition to that, we have two other committees that you could possibly get a presentation by. One is Metro Plan, and we still have the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. Those would be places you would start. However, if this was recrafted into a policy issue, then that's what would come back to this board. Questions have been called by Member Shower. We have 2 members list, but questions have been called. I'll second the call for questions. Any discussion on the question? Seeing none, all in favor of not sending this to the Transportation Committee, signify by aye. Aye. Motion carries. But thank you. It's very well thought out plan. It's just not the right venue for it. We're going to go to member comments. I have just a few. I'm going to ask staff if they will resend the schedule for future meetings to all the board members, and that you all will take a look at that and give us your comments back. The second comment is that I am very much in favor of doing something on transportation, but I have had a series of meetings since we brought this to committee. The problem with transportation today is the same as it was when I was on the board some 20 years ago. The county is not in charge of the whole basket. They're just not. The state is in charge of a large part of it, FDOT, and then you have East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, you have Metro Plan, which is required by the federal government. East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, I think, is required by the state, at least it was. And then you have links, and then you've got these private entities like Mears and Disney and Universal Studios, and so it's hard to craft a policy that ties all that together. So we're really interested in seeing what comes out of this committee. I think it could be a tremendous benefit for the public, but the task you have is really great. It's really great. But I hope we can figure something out, but it's just too bifurcated for any one person to grab it. The county can't do a lot of things without the state. And then in addition to that, you've got 13 municipalities. Each of them have their own transportation policy. So it's a big ticket item, and I know that the county has been struggling with this for many, many years. In addition to that, there's a high probability that the county will put the ballot initiative out again for the penny. I have no idea what it's going to pass by the board, but there's a high probability that will pass. That will put to the public, and if it is placed on the public, it already includes an oversight provision. So there's a lot to look at in transportation. So I encourage the committee to continue to work on that, but it's really kind of an overwhelming task. My board couldn't figure it out. The current board is having issues with it, and we all want to get a solution. Okay, in order there, Member O'Neill, Member Wynn, Member Staccato. Must be Staccato.
Member Bago, what's the...
Member Reggie.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, Member Wynn.
Yes. I was just going to recommend that maybe because it's a large project and it could help around the U.S., why not the U.S. Department of Transportation that you might contact in some fashion? And then because the U.S. Department sends it down to the state and the state helps the county. So the U.S. has more money to really think about what you would think about because it's a large project. That's just a recommendation.
Okay, Member Batchelor.
Just a housekeeping. I know when we first started the CRC meetings, we asked the staff to tell us all the efforts they would make to try to be sure that all publics, all constituencies were notified of the CRC and what we're doing, and they did that. And council says it's never too early to start with the June deadline, so maybe we could ask staff maybe to come back at one of the following meetings and tell us what latitude do we have to promote the issues once they're on the ballot. I don't mean promote voting for them, but promoting, letting the public know that these issues are going to be on the ballot. And that, can we do that? Can we use the PIO office at the county? Are they in a position that they can continue to use social media to get the word out that now this is the proposed CRC amendments, charter amendments, et cetera. So maybe they could come back and at least tell us what kind of latitude they would have as far as getting the word out as they did at the beginning of these hearings.
I think that's a great idea, and we plan to do that. We've held one press conference. We will have another press conference when we get these items back from the various committees, and we can have more if you all choose. But right now we have one scheduled. We don't know the date yet, but it'll be as we start to bringing these things in.
I'm just suggesting, Mr. Chairman, that in addition to that, which I think is great, the social media platforms is what really people are gravitating towards. And I'd like to see you on TikTok one day. So
we have to first learn how to use it.
You gonna dance?
Okay, I think that's well taken. I think everyone agrees that we should have as much publicity as we can. I kind of think if we do something that the public doesn't like, we're going to get more publicity than we really want. So we have to wait and see. I said I would come back to Member O'Neill. He had a discussion item on a motion. If he still has that, this will be the time.
Well, seeing as I'm batting 1,000, this motion in relation to the proposal made that came from the public to assign the creation of a position of ombudsman to the governmental structure committee for review and possible recommendation.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Member Rishi. We're open for discussion. See, Member Batchelor.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of information, when Mayor Jacobs, I think you said, instituted that was just a policy decision. She just did it by executive fiat. There was no county commission vote on it. Was it established by the county commission or just established by the mayor's office? Does anyone know the answer to that question?
It was set up by the mayor.
It was set up by the mayor's office then? Okay. Maybe, well, it would be good. My final point is it would be good if we could go back and get, if there was an order or a letter or appointment or something, go look at the language.
Good question.
That was contained therein.
And I think what you're asking is, was it an executive action by the mayor?
Yes.
Or was it something voted into by the board?
And to see the written correspondence either way, just so we can see the philosophy behind it and how it was structured.
Sure.
I understand. Member Shara?
Yes, we all these issues that we're coming forward with, I think it's really important, if possible, to have a financial statement in terms of what this is going to cost. I think it's our duty and responsibility to the public. We're spending people's money by putting these policies in place. So therefore, I think there should be a financial statement in terms of what it's going to cost an additional employee, space, et cetera, and whether or not people make a decision whether they want to spend the money. This is democracy. It's not, autocratic activity, for sure.
Thank you. Member Staccato.
I think if it's a policy, it's something that the government committee could explore. That is it a policy? It's part of the exploration of that committee is to answer that question. I think it's an important position, although it might cost money. It also could save money because you could have employees come with information in a safe environment to be able to speak to each other, to a person who's neutral and isolated enough from the political potential of causing them damage, like being fired. So I think ombudsman is a good position. I mean, we have the IG in the federal government, which is a very effective method of how you control, and it's not part of the structure of that organization. And we don't really have that. And maybe we do need to define that position or consider to define that position in our charter so it's there.
Thank you. Member Nguyen.
Yes. I think the ombudsman appointed by the previous mayor was a decision made by the previous mayor, and that office within the mayor's office. Now, Mayor Chapin, when she was here, she had an ombudsman, and she appointed that person because that's what she thought needed to be done. And that person was listening to went around different departments to try and help make them more progressive, if you will. And that budget came out of her budget. And the way that she did it that one time was it was not to be over $10,000 that her office approved. And then if it was renewed, it wasn't over $10,000. Now, I know that for a fact.
There's no further discussion on
Chairman.
the board.
Chairman.
Mr. Voss.
Thank you. I really hate to focus on form rather than substance, but I want to point out one thing. Implementing your procedures for taking in and dealing with evaluation topics, the procedures you've adopted, particularly when matters are coming initially from a member of the public, is that an item be submitted in writing and agended before you take any action referring it to committee and so on. And again, I only bring this up just to keep us on the straight and narrow path so we're not going in a lot of different directions and so on. My recommendation to be consistent with your evaluation topic procedures that you've adopted would be that this could be put on as an agenda item at your next full CRC meeting. Staff can put together additional information, backup material concerning that from the time when Mayor Jacobs had considered that, and then the CRC would have an opportunity to discuss it and decide whether to refer it to committee. Again, I don't mean to kick it down the road, but that would be my recommendation, just to keep us flying in formation with what we've done before.
And that would help us answer Member Batchelor's question as well.
Sure. Mr. Chair, I withdraw the motion.
Can I withdraw my second, because I did second it?
Okay, the motion is withdrawn. It doesn't require a vote if both the maker and the second are withdrawn. Now, having withdrawn the motion, are you in favor of? Are you withdrawing it totally, or do you want legal to give us some feedback?
I would like the member of the public, which is Mr. Betancourt, to come back at the next meeting. When is the deadline for him to submit?
It would be, I believe it's this Thursday, the 18th.
To put something in writing. Doesn't have to be fancy, but we have rules and we must follow those rules.
And what our rules contemplate is, a member of the public can submit that so it can get on the agenda, and that the purpose of which, as stated in the rules, is to give staff time to put additional information together. So staff can go ahead and put together that information from Mayor Jacobs' time and put it as part of the agenda item.
Makes sense.
So that staff would, when he puts that in Thursday, as I would expect him to do, then the staff could be triggered to go and do the research question that Commissioner Batcher asked.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, and any other research that they
So we're in
made.
good shape on the 30th.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a quick comment. As a member of the committee, I actually encouraged, as a chair of the committee, I actually encouraged, this is the second time that Mr. Betancourt has brought this to our attention, and I would support including that as part of our scope. We've got a very good committee. We've got a very methodical process. And to answer Vice Chair Chira's concern, if it advances to the full CRC and if it passes, the fiscal impact statement will be part of the ballot language.
Okay, thank you. I see Mr. Batchelor. You done?
Yeah, just very quickly, one of the things I would suggest, and maybe it's informal, is that part of the staff review might be just asking the mayor's chief of staff if he's contemplated ever having an ombudsman. If he says yes, we don't have to go through the CRC process. I hate to go through a CRC process and have a debate, because once you have the debate about the need for an ombudsman, it can invite a lot of negative connotations, like the county commissioners aren't doing their job, the staff's not doing their job. I'm not adverse to an ombudsman. I'm in favor of anybody that kind of opens the door for the public to peer in and get an answer, but maybe some informal conversation with, if it was just the mayor had the caveat by her own fiat at the time. To do it, maybe the mayor might, if approached, say, well, rather than the CRC putting this matter on the ballot.
Okay, very good point. We're still in member discussion. I see Member Weinsberg or Callan. Weinsberg.
Yes, yeah, Mr. Callen had to leave. I just would like to apologize to Mr. Betancourt because he brought this to our committee formally and sent us a little letter, and to the Government Structure Committee, and we kicked it down the road to you all because obviously we didn't exactly get the right ducks in a row to make this formal. But talk about an ombudsman. Poor Mr. Betancourt, we keep bouncing him around from committee to committee, so we appreciate you very much. Come up with these unique ideas. And as far as pursuing the staff and where it went and before, that's what we'll do if you send it to our committee. You know how we are. We get them to come in and talk to us, we research it, and we figure it out. So I'm on that committee, and I would be interested in pursuing it.
Vice Chair Chera, and then we're going to end discussion.
Can you see my cue? Because I keep pushing a button, and I don't want the world to think I'm just silent.
I can, but I turn it on.
I yield.
No, that's okay.
I yield to the judge.
Okay.
Do you want to speak?
Yeah, just a comment with this, with regard to Mr. Betancourt and to our committee. And just in my opinion, this is where government and our structure and our procedures can get in the way, because it's, to me, for him to present it to our committee, I don't recall that it was something in writing, but if it was already something in writing, it's not something he has to go back and recreate. But then he comes here, he's on record, is presenting it. There seems to be interest from this from the CRC to take it up. And I would just say in instances of policy and procedure, sometimes there is a reason why you choose to make a special exception and go ahead and get the ball rolling, because time is of the essence with this issue. So those are my comments. Whether you do or don't, that's just my comment.
I have one comment along that line also. Why does his original presentation to the committee not satisfy the requirement that he asked for to be placed on the agenda?
Staff never received any communication at any level anywhere to agenda it.
Okay, so Mr. Betancourt, I get it. It wasn't your fault. It's actually the committee. The committee didn't follow the not on purpose, but just in the process of trying to get you to the board, they neglected to follow the bylaws strictly. And the risk for us is that we followed the policy so strictly, and we've had people wait a month, sometimes longer, to get on the agenda. That if we get outside of that, and as we get it to the end, and we need to actually move someone out or make them go through the process, then they have a right to say, well, you changed it for this particular issue. So even though I would like to change it, I'm sure many of the members have already indicated that they would like to hear it. It would just put us in a position where we may be compromised in the future. So I would suggest that you get with staff, just give them the same information that you presented earlier, get it on here, and then we welcome you back. Okay, seeing that there's no other comments.
I just yielded her so she could have it, but I'm still. I just don't want to go to jail.
My favorite comment is that everything that needs to be said has been said, but not by everybody.
Not
We don't need a motion for that. I can just say we adjourn, but we will take a motion. We don't have to, but let's take a motion.
I have one more thing.
Comments. We're still in.
Yeah, I
Okay,
want to make a comment.
Vice Chair Shara and then Staccato.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted just a short comment. I took the pleasure of calling our attorney, Mr. Voss, about the financial disclosure laws that were passed in previous legislative action. That the much more stricter for elected officials. However, it does not apply, and I've got an opinion from him that it doesn't apply to advisory boards or commissions that are not elected by the public. Is that correct?
That's correct. Chairman, I can address it real quick. If you've heard this on the news, it's been discussed, in the paper and all manner of things. Legislature last session changed the law so that now city commissioners, city council members have to file what's called the Form 6. That is the form that county commissioners, constitutional officers, state reps, and state senators, and the governor have had to file in the past. Elected city council members have not had to. They've had to file the Form 1. All right. So the question was, did that change in the law make it so you all have to file a Form 6 as well. The answer is the law did not do that. You are not required to file that much more onerous Form 6.
Thank you. I know we don't need a motion to adjourn, but just for the sake of the order.
And Chair, just real quick, I wanted to remind everyone that we'll see you all back in about 2 weeks on January 30th here in Chambers at 6 p.m.
Chair, Members DeCardo had a comment as well.
I just had a quick comment. There was something that came up in our government committee about the write-in candidates. Remember we talked about this. There was a policy, and there's an interpretation, I guess, by the state, and there's a different interpretation locally. And we had discussed it, but we need, I guess, guidance. And do you remember the write-in policy about third party? A third person would come in and just write in right before and have to be.
We're discussing that as part of our review. Is that correct?
Is that part of? Are we official on that?
I believe so. That's.
I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember.
Turn your meter back on.
Let me.
It's on nonpartisan elections.
Yeah.
It's the county's rule.
605.
Yeah. We're reviewing that. That's part of
Okay,
our review.
so that's an element of it. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're going to. Okay.
I'm trying to remember what I said
we
before.
discussed it briefly.
My vague recollection is all tied up in the same thing. But
Okay,
If I change my mind the way I look at the particulars, I apologize.
Okay,
But,
I'm sorry. It's
And
lapse
to our
of
committee
memory.
chairs, it's time to start wrapping this baby up. Okay, so
We're late.
decide who
8:01.
you need to speak before your committee, get them scheduled to come in, and let's get this ship on the road.
Okay.
Okay. The chair moves that we adjourn.
I second it.
Then seconded by Vice Chair Shara.
No.
All in favor, signify by aye. Show Dick Batchelor as a nay.